Get away from her, you bitch!
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Ian, freeze! Get the cat! Get rid of the fire!
D is silent here, baby.
You're listening to DMR.
I'll be throwing one of these in with every purchase of 500 million or more. It's a piece.
Welcome back to DMR. Thank you for tuning back in. Much obliged. So today we've got a very special edition of DMR. So make sure you go and get a big batch of popcorn. This one goes for about an hour, just under an hour. So it's an interview with a gentleman named Calvin Price. So Calvin is the creator and host of the Horror Cycle on YouTube and on TikTok as well. So we connected about a month ago. So obviously film enthusiast, but more so in the horror genre for Calvin. So he's got his own horror cave, which is similar to a man cave, but full of VHS copies of horror movies from the 70s, 80s and 90s. Very cool setup. But more importantly, to add to this man's expertise, he is a real life ghost hunter. That's right, he's a real life ghost hunter. So he's from Canada and he gets access to all of these haunted properties, mansions, whatever have you. And this guy will buckle up and basically stay overnight in these haunted properties. So yes, it sounds like the plot of a lot of ghost movies, and this guy's a real deal. So some of the stuff that he mentions throughout this interview is very much bone chilling, but it's a really cool interview. So as I said, it goes for about an hour, so enjoy this special edition. And I will be announcing today as well that we are very excited that we have partnered with none other than the renowned Australian brand of suits and men's apparel, which is MJ Bale. So I'm wearing an MJ Bale suit right now as you speak, and I've been wearing their suits for over a decade now. So brilliant garments, brilliant suits. It's all there online, so we'll discuss that a little bit further before we jump right into the interview. So enjoy. So these suits that need no introduction, MJ Bale. So as I mentioned, I've been wearing their suits for over a decade now. I cannot fault them. They are beautiful merino wool suits. They've got plenty of different styles online and in store, from business suits, casual suits. Of course, you've got shirts, belts, ties, you name it, it's all there. I will be dropping the link in the description, so make sure you jump on. All right. So welcome back to DMR, Dewey's Movie Reviews. And today, I've got a very special guest, the creator of the Horror Cycle, named Calvin Price. Calvin Price. There he is. Such a horror name. Like Calvin also basically, if you haven't jumped on his TikTok page, he's a real life ghost hunter. So the name matches up very, very well. Sounds like someone that you'd go and seek if your house was haunted or something like that, to basically do an exorcism or something along those lines. So welcome to the show, Calvin.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell me, mate, the Horror Cycle, we connected on TikTok probably about, a couple of weeks ago, I think?
That's right, yeah.
So how long have you been on TikTok now with the Horror Cycle, or even your YouTube page? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I started the YouTube channel in October, just right around Halloween in 2021.
Yeah.
I did have a horror channel before that, and it was called The Woods After Dark. And
that's a cool name. Yep.
Yeah. And I guess maybe not a lot of people thought so, or maybe I just had too high of expectations. I think one of the mistakes a lot of YouTubers make, they expect to be Mr. Beast within a week.
It doesn't quite work like that, does it?
No, I found that out pretty fast. I'd upload videos and I would be all excited sitting there watching, and 5 views after a week. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was doing something wrong. And so I kind of took a break from it. and rebranded, changed the name, and came back and really tried to put a lot of thought into the productions. Started networking a little bit better and paying attention. Very important for anyone starting a YouTube channel. Pay attention to your analytics, and they speak volumes.
YouTube
so
studio, very, very important.
Oh, absolutely. So I just started doing that and really trying to put the actual effort into it instead of just uploading and expecting massive results.
Yeah.
2021 October, right around Halloween, I rebranded as the Horror Cycle, and that's just kind of a play on just the different horror cycles in the genre. We always hear about the Universal Horror Cycle or the Hammer movie cycle. Or creature features in the 50s. So I just wanted to kind of carry that theme into the new channel.
Yeah.
I found pretty decent results right away. And I was networking through Instagram, started a TikTok, and like I was saying, I didn't really know exactly what to do with it. And so
I don't think anyone does. It's like, it's such a massive unknown type Wild West at the moment. That's what I feel it's like.
Absolutely.
You can put like an hour into doing an edit or something along those lines with content, and you'll get maybe 230 views. Or you might do something that takes 30 seconds and it might go to 200,000 views. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, I know, right? Like I think the Frankenstein TikTok that I uploaded, a few thoughts about Frankenstein. That was just whipped together fast. Threw a few clips on there. I think it took me about 15 minutes to throw that together, and I put it on, and I got up the next day and looked, and I think it had like over 2,000 views. I'm like, whoa, and then something I would put a little more effort into, and 230 views. So it's kind of a go figure, right? What people are gonna have a taste for.
Yeah, 100%. I've found that, because I review movies, is that I found that if I get in front of the camera and talk about something that's probably controversial, like I did something about the slap with Chris Rock and Will Smith, and then the I Am Legend 2 movie is apparently going to be coming out towards the end of the year or early next year. And the question was basically, will you be going and see it or boycotting it? I was neutral. Basically, I will go and see it. I don't really care about the slap anymore. But it's just funny, people's reactions like, bro, the slap was old news. Like, how can you say that crap? And like all this. And there's some people that say, no, I'm going. So I found that when asking questions like that, it's pretty good because you get people talking.
Exactly. It's always good to have a call to action on at least every 4 to 5 videos, get a bit of conversation going. Yeah. So 100%. That's all the little things that I still have to figure out.
Yeah. So with some of your content as well with horror movies, I've noticed that there's a fair bit of few facts that people probably don't know. Is that correct?
Yeah. I always try to, like, one of the things that I didn't want to do when, because in the first sort of incarnation of my YouTube channel, it was just straight up movie reviews. That was it. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to continue doing this, I want to try to do something where it's a little bit of variety thrown in there. Instead of just doing a review, maybe some videos I'll do a spotlight on a certain actor, like Rod Steiger from Amityville Horror, which just I could go on for days about how much I despise that movie and the acting that's contained within it.
Are you talking about the remake in the early?
No, the original 1979 Amityville Horror.
What didn't you like about that?
Oh boy, I think they. I mean, it was such a great ensemble cast. You have an Academy Award-winning actor, Academy Award-nominated actress. You got what's his name? The hunky guy with the beard. And it's like the director just didn't know what to do with them. There was bad editing. I just felt the acting was like they were taking like take 3 of a scene and when they could have gone a little further, and plus I was such a huge fan of the book. And so when the movie came out, by the time the movie came out, I think I was about 12 or whatever, 12 years old. And I'd already got my hands on the book and read it. And the movie is such a loose version of the book. They've changed the names, they've changed the events. They basically changed almost the entire sequence of activities that this family experienced.
Is that the house is still there, right?
Yep, house is still there. I think they did some alterations on it to take out those quarter moon windows on the third floor,
Oh, yeah.
just so it wasn't as eye catching. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the original, but I did see the one with what was his name? Yeah,
oh, Ryan Reynolds.
that's one. Yeah, I remember seeing that hungover with a couple of my mates on a Sunday night. And seriously, bad call. I thought it was really disturbing. I don't know about you, but I thought it was really
actually. I quite enjoyed the remake. And but yeah, the first one, I don't know, for a movie I despise that much. I've seen it probably no less than 20 times. So
Right.
there must be something in there that I enjoy, and I have it right over there in my VHS collection. So I'll
So
take it out
did
and
you-
watch it every once in a while.
Yeah. So talking about the is it the horror cave? Is that what you call it?
Oh yeah, my man cave, yeah, a horror cave. Yeah.
So how did that come about? How long have you been working on that horror cave?
It's been a bit of a work in progress. Just I would tear it down and rebuild it every every other month, and move the couch around and move pictures over there, and then I'd make the mistake of going on YouTube and or Instagram and seeing what somebody else has done, and it's like, oh man, I like that a lot better. And so there I am, like moving TV stands and shelves again, and so I'm suspecting it'll be one of those everlasting evolutions.
So you mentioned VHS. Do you go out of your way to get those copies?
Yes, I do. I'd like to not every horror movie on VHS, because I don't think any of them are even worth it. But my main area of love, I guess, in horror is kind of that late 70s to mid 80s kind of section where the slasher kind of genre was coming into its own.
Yep.
And paranormal movies and George Romero movies. So I kind of wanted to stock my collection with those, because to me that's kind of the legacy of my collection. So yeah, I've been busy getting all the Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. I think I've got 5 copies of Dawn of the Dead, because there's several different versions that were released, and
Oh, right.
the TV version, the North American version, the European version, then extended, and director's cut. I think there's even there's a fan cut that was made, but I don't think it would ever get released on any type of medium. I think it just got thrown on YouTube.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
So with these VHS, right, like I'm assuming that you look for them online, or where would you find them?
Actually, I've been really, really lucky. I've got a buddy of mine, and he is someone that you'd probably love interviewing as well. He is probably one of the foremost authorities with a photographic memory on horror movies that I've ever met.
Really?
And yeah, oh yeah. He doesn't really do social media though, in terms of movie reviews or anything, but we have stayed up like all night talking about horror movies. And he runs an eBay channel, and he sells movies on there, buys and sells movies, and he's got all these different contacts. So I've bought a lot of movies off of him. And I've also got lucky. There's a lot of secondhand stores where I live, and I've walked in there and found a second generation release of The Evil Dead.
Right.
And it's like, wow, it's quite the find. I found Videodrome, that one. I've got 2 copies of it on VHS, and I found one still factory sealed. And you can tell the difference between a first gen release and, like, say, an Anchor Bay release, where the Anchor Bay release is the VHS it's like light as a feather. It's like horribly factory mass produced, whereas the original ones, it's like a brick. It's like holding a brick in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have, like, I know in America they've got swap meets and stuff like that. Do you have them in Canada as well?
Yep. Swap meets and flea markets, as they're called.
Yeah. So I imagine you'd be pretty frequent on those when they come around looking for your new VHS.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and garage sales. It's amazing what gems people will sell for 50 cents.
Yeah, 100% garage sales. That would be.
Oh yeah.
I guess you'd be like, someone finds a really cool set of vinyl copies with music. Like if you find a stack of VHS that no one would really think, too much about. It's like, I'll take it off your hands. Yep.
Oh, exactly. Right. So, yeah, I've been pretty lucky in that regard. The only ones I've kind of paid top dollar for was I wanted a original release of The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And that one I had to pay a couple $100 for on eBay because they're just, unless I just waited half my life to luck out and find one at a flea market, it probably wasn't going to happen. So, but I wanted to get my hands on that because in the first release, there's all the errors that didn't get detected until after it came out. With the visible crew members and little continuity errors here and there, and visible microphones and whatnot. So it's a pretty good find and something that it's good to have in the collection.
Yep. Yeah, got to understand. So with your top 5 horror movies, so I know you've seen a lot. You've probably seen more than most that are out there at the moment. But what would be your top 5? Do you think?
It's kind of a rotating thing. I mean, number 1 of all time for me has to be Dawn of the Dead 78.
Right. That when they're in the shopping center, yeah?
That's right. Yeah. That movie does for me what the Amityville Horror didn't do for me. And, it's just polar opposites. The other ones, there's a movie that came out in 2016 called Southbound. It's an anthology horror movie.
Southbound, is that right?
Yeah, Southbound. And it's directed by a group of directors called Radio Silence. And it's just amazing. It's just one of those movies you could just watch over and over again. Then just to kind of get a little bit atypical, The Shining is on my top 5 list.
Yeah, that's a brilliant movie. I'm assuming that you've read the book.
Yes, I have. And
is the book more of a alcohol fueled type thing? Is that right? I haven't read the book at all.
I think so. It really is an in-depth character study of the character of Jack in his alcoholism and just all the things that he's gone through in his life. And it's almost like the rest of the characters are very secondary. And it's just a fantastic character study. Probably one of the more brilliant books that I've read of Stephen King's. It's a tough read at first to get through it, and then after that you absorb it, and then it's like you go back and you start noticing things that you might have glazed over the first time you read it. I've listened to the audiobook version of it several times just so I don't have to, so I can, when I'm driving to work, I'll listen to it. And so it's brilliant. The movie version does get criticized because it is much like the Amityville Horror. It is a very loose retelling of the book.
It's funny about that with like screen adaptations versus the book. Like when I was younger, like I saw Jurassic Park in early 1994. So I came out in 1993, right? So it changed my life forever. I was 9. Dad took me to see it. Unbelievable, right? And I've got a little 2-year-old boy, and now he names all the dinosaurs and stuff like that. Like, he's a lot younger than me. But it wasn't until probably about maybe 5 or 6 years ago that I actually read the novels. And the novels, far out. Like, if they had, and again, Jurassic Park's one of my top 5 movies, right? Yeah. But if they had what they had in the novel up on the screen, Jesus, it's more of a, I don't know if you've read the actual novel, but it's more of a horror. Yeah, it's very dark. It's a lot more stuff happens. Like there's a scene where the T-Rex basically is hunting Alan and the kids underwater in a raft and stuff like that. There's a scene where they're going down a river and there's adult Dilophosauruses all hooting and stuff around them. There's a volcano already on the island. And there's the velociraptors have all their eggs and nests at the base of this volcano. It's just crazy. Yeah. But it's funny because a lot of the films that came out after it, like for instance, I don't know if you've seen all the Jurassic World or Park movies. Yeah. Is that Fallen Kingdom, which I think is the weakest of the films. But the start of it absolutely kicked ass, and where the Rex is biting the ladder of the helicopter, That's actually the end scene of the first novel.
Oh, really? Oh,
So it's funny you say that about books versus what you see up on the screen. And I posted about The Exorcist, which still scares the crap out of me.
mhm.
And apparently it's based on a true story back in the 1940s. Is that right? Late 40s?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I've never
Yeah.
delved too deeply into it, but that's what I've heard. There is, I don't think it's based on a girl in Georgetown, but I think it
No.
was a teenage boy somewhere in Missouri, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken, in the
Yeah.
1940s.
Yeah. Yeah. So I only saw the release or the director's cut, I think it is, when I
Yep,
was about 9 or 10. And that's the one where she's running backwards down the stairs like a
the
spider.
spider crawl. Yeah,
And I read the other day that apparently the director cut it out of the movie because he didn't want the terror to be raised too quickly.
I don't think there's anything they could have done to make that movie less or more terrifying in 1973. I mean, that was
Mm.
crazy. People fainting
Well,
and yeah,
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 I saw the YouTube footage of back then with lines around the block and
yep,
priests basically out the front of the cinema telling people do not go and see this film.
yeah,
I don't think they were ready for it. Like I posted the vomiting scene on TikTok. It's almost
yeah.
got 200,000 views, and like some of the comments are amazing. Like people actually saw the film when it was released, and almost all of them. There's a very few people that said it's not scary at all, but a lot of them are in their like 60s or 70s, and they're commenting
Mhm.
saying that they saw it. Mum told me not to see it, but I sort of snuck in and
Yeah.
saw it at a drive-in. I didn't sleep for a month or slept with a Bible under my bed. It just had that much of an impact. I
Yeah,
think it's what I think it's very similar. You've got a young 13-year-old girl that has kind of been, well, since the release of that film, she didn't have much of an acting career, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Was it Linda Blair? I think her name was
Linda Blair. Yeah.
Linda Blair. When I look at that style of character, like you go that deep into something that is so dark, I find that it's similar to what happened with Heath Ledger with the Joker, because
Yeah.
apparently he locked himself in a room for a month and got
That's
in the
right.
complete psyche of the Joker. And
That's
then we
right.
all know what happened thereafter is that unfortunately he passed away accidentally with sleeping pills or something along those lines.
That's right. Yeah.
So
But
you can only imagine what people getting into that psyche, especially with characters like a possessed 13-year-old girl.
yeah, and you got to be super talented, especially at 12 years old, where you may have not
Oh yeah,
perfected the art of being like a character driven actor, where you got to get into that.
mm.
That's amazing for a 12-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I might have jumped ahead there. So we go back to your top 5 films again. So count them off. So what do you got it?
Okay, so what did we got so far? We got Dawn of the Dead,
Yep.
Southbound.
Yep.
So I'm gonna put The Evil Dead in there,
The Evil.
and yeah, the original The Evil Dead. And the reason why is I heard about. Okay, I grew up in a small town in northern Alberta, northern Canada,
Right.
where new releases came out months after they were released everywhere else on the planet.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
And so I had heard about this movie. I would buy Fangoria magazines, and finally our video store got it, and I was in there and I got it and I took it home and I recorded. We had 2 VHSs, so I made a copy of it,
Mm.
and I watched that movie over and over, just dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and it just never ceased to freak me out, make me gag when he's got the thumbs in the eyes and that thick blood oozes out. Like even now, that makes me kind of squint when I see that. But
Yeah.
that movie was, I always say that was kind of like one of the movies of my youth.
Mm.
Like this old buddy that I can take out and hang out with for an hour and a half. So just absolutely amazing that movie. Uh, I'd say for number 4, it would have to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Original.
because the original,
Yeah.
because for many years I actually thought that it was based on a true story. At the very beginning with John Larroquette, sort of narrating and making it sound like it was an actual true story when it wasn't.
It wasn't. I thought it was. There you
go. Yeah, no, absolutely not a true story. And but I don't know, there was just something about it because it's one of the few horror movies that are so acclaimed, but it just, it's got the word chainsaw in it, but there's only one. You only see chainsaws hitting flesh at one point in the movie, and that's at the very end when Leatherface falls on the ground and it hits his leg. That's the only time in the movie that you kind of see a chainsaw kind of flesh thing. But there's not a lot of gore in this movie. It's they give you the idea of gore without it being over the top, like hanging a girl on a meat hook. You see it, but it's just, it's I think it's just, for a low budget, independent that probably shouldn't have gone much beyond, the drive-in circuit in 1974 whenever it came out. It is just absolutely a stunning movie in my eyes. And then for a number 5, I have to go with the very first Friday the 13th. And because that's like, you can point to any movie you want, whether it's Halloween or what is it, Black Christmas, or any of these sort of precursor slasher movies that came out maybe in the late 60s, early 70s. But for my money, Friday the 13th, 1980 is like the granddaddy of the slasher movies, because maybe it was the dawn of the slasher era. The 80s were the slasher decade, and so it's one of those movies, even though I don't think it's the best one in the series, it's just such a great springboard, and kind of gave the franchise, endless opportunities just to sustain that growth.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and watch those movies. I know how many were there? Like 11 or 12?
I think they got up to 12. So everyone's been with the 12th one being the reboot in 2009. So we've been waiting for 14, 15 years now. So
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So tell me about the haunted properties that you've been at.
So the one that
backtrack a bit. How did you get into your first one?
Okay, so I started this group in probably 2012, and we call ourselves the Cold Spotters. And Cold Spotters, and right. It's a bit of a play on a couple of things. I was looking for something that could be sort of like, Ghostbusters, and but yeah, a cold spot is sort of a thing that happens or that you can experience in a haunted location, where spirits can draw on your thermal energy to make themselves present around you and move objects. And so you feel this kind of really deep kind of a drop in temperature. And so it's just called a cold spot. So I kind of came up with that. And so we're actually quite popular here in the Vancouver area, and we've allowed chapters to open up all across the States. And there's one
really?
And there's one in Europe. And so I think we got about 12 or 13 chapters now, and they're self-managing. They run themselves, but they just kind of wanted to use our name. So that was pretty cool for us. But all the places that we get into, a lot of the times it was kind of like a happy accident. Like, for example, there's this resort up in the British Columbia interior, and it's a very old resort. In kind of some ways, it reminds me of the Overlook Hotel. It's a very old place.
It sounds like you're going down that route, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a seasonal hotel. They close for the winter because where they're located, like 20 feet of snow in the winter. So one of our team members was coming back, and it was in the summertime, and she just happened to pull in there. Her and a friend were going to stay overnight on the way back to Vancouver, and they got to talking to the people that run the place, and you got some haunted history, and so she said, hey, we've got this paranormal group, but it'd be okay if we come back. So they allowed us there the weekend before they opened up for the season the following spring. Right. And so we had the place literally all to ourselves for 3 days. And it was just absolutely fantastic. This, in a lot of haunted places, you hear the banging and the
Mm.
footsteps and whatnot, and it's really exciting until you start to figure out, older places will make these kind of noises. You start
Of
learning
course,
how
yeah.
to debunk and whatnot. So we've kind of gotten quite good at that over the years. So every little bang that happens, we don't automatically think it's a ghost, but
No.
we've definitely captured a lot of things that have really, that is beyond our pay grade as far as trying to figure out how it happened.
Do
Lots
you
of,
see, as in like voices?
yeah, a lot of voices. Um, we haven't seen any like full apparitions as such.
Yeah.
We've seen lots of shadows, and we've had doors slamming, all of which can sometimes be explained, but in some of these cases, it was like, no, that would have not have happened.
Mm.
In the case of the mansion that we were talking about, where it was filmed.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so you pull that on your TikTok. That's where's that invent up in you? Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's in the Vancouver area, and the office that manages it, a friend of mine worked there, and she didn't know that I was a paranormal investigator. And I posted something on Facebook, and this is back in 2015, so about 8 years ago now. And she said, "Oh, I didn't know you do that." Well, I work for this company, and we manage this giant old mansion, and production companies rent it and film in it. But when there's a break in the filming schedule, we'll be happy to give you the keys, and you can go in there and spend the night and tell us what you think. So they didn't have to ask us twice. So we we were there, and we had a door slam, and I thought, okay, it could have been, someone could have had a window open, the wind caught it. So we were doing what is called an EVP session, and EVP is electronic voice phenomena,
Right.
and you just use a normal digital recorder. So I said, "Did you slam this door?" And when we did the playback, you could hear a yes.
No.
On the playback.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So we've gotten a lot of captures there, mainly voice, over the years.
Mm.
After that initial first investigation, we've basically become the house band for the place. We can get in there anytime we want, and we have exclusivity with it. So
Really?
they don't let any other paranormal groups in there.
Mm.
But we're pretty good at sharing, and we've invited a lot of our friends in the paranormal community. They're on other teams. We've invited them to join us for our overnights, and I think we counted it. We've been in there 20 times
Mm.
in the last 8 years, and that's 20 weekends. We always take it from Friday to Sunday. And out of those 20 times, I think there's probably only been 2-3 times tops where it just was very neutral and nothing happened, and it just seemed like it was kind of flat. And when that happens, we usually just end up you know cracking a few cans of beer, and having to turn it into a bit of a little retreat getaway.
Yeah, yeah, get it.
Yeah, but the place has always been very, very good to us in terms of activity, and so that's why we keep going back. It's like we want more, and
Mm.
this past time was no different. We got it's the one thing that happens. It's really weird, and I don't know if other groups have tried this as well, but it's always interesting to see what happens when nobody is there. And so what we do is
Yeah.
when we get there, we'll set up our cameras and recorders and kind of scatter them all over the house. And then we'll leave for a couple of hours and go for dinner. And we'll be gone for a good, hour and a half to 2 hours. And when we come back, almost every single time, it's like the place comes to life when we're not there. It's
Really?
almost like Toy Story, where all the toys come to life
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when
Good
the
enough.
humans are gone. And so it was so it was so noisy one night. We could hear footsteps, we could hear doors and this and that. I called the manager that night and asked if somebody had been in the mansion while we were gone, because it was that obvious. And she was like, "No, actually, there's only one key to the place, and you guys have it." So I'm like, okay. And after that, every single time we do that little experiment, there is we'll kind of tag out the normal noises that a house makes, like the air pockets in the vents and whatnot, because we're kind of familiar with those noises. But there will be footsteps and doors opening and closing and banging, and it's absolutely crazy. And it happened again this time. We actually captured a voice this time.
Really?
It said dinner.
Was probably going to eat you.
Yeah, maybe he was jealous that we were out.
Or maybe just wanted you to bring something back.
Right.
Help me out. Like I'm dead. Like just give me a bite to eat.
Exactly. Well, we brought some leftovers, but
oh man, well. I think I might mention to you a couple of weeks ago. Like we've had our house at home professionally cleansed twice. Twice with two different people. One was very good. The other one was more seasoned than the first.
Yeah.
And they didn't say the place was haunted or anything like that, but both of them felt that there was definite negative energy in the place. And my wife and I have seen, since we've been in there, since 2016. Now, I'm not saying it's haunted. But we've seen some odd stuff and some odd things have happened. Yeah. For instance, my mates give me a lot of crap about it, but we had a corner in the lounge room and both of us saw this happen. There was a house plant in this corner. And my wife and I both saw, now obviously all plants move, right? If you film a plant long enough, especially a house plant, you will see it on a time lapse, you'll see it moving up and down, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time we saw the branches or the leaves being pulled.
Really?
Yeah. We both saw it. And now I'm pretty, up to speed with animals and, all that stuff, especially here in Australia where most of the stuff can kill you, right? So went over there, checked all inside, because we've got here in Australia, we've got a spider called a huntsman, right? There's two types. There's one, I think it's called a banded huntsman, and then there's a normal huntsman, and they're brown, and they're nowhere near as big as a tarantula, but some of them get very big, right? They're not venomous, but they're very quick, and they scare the crap out of you. They're very well known for hiding under your sun visor in cars because they like to sneak up there.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and they're not. If you look them up, like huntsmen, they're not mucking around. Like we've got another one called the Sydney funnel web spider, and that's a real arsehole, right? Now these things are very black and leathery. They look like something out of a nightmare, and they've got razor sharp fangs, and they're actually known to basically chase people. That's how aggressive they are.
Wow.
A mate of mine knew a girl that was taking out or putting out their washing a couple of weeks ago, and one of them were hiding in between the sheets, and the fangs embedded that hard into her skin that she was struggling to pull it out, and they are venomous.
Oh.
Yeah, they're a nightmare.
Oh,
so they're almost like a tarantula, but a smaller version of one.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm getting at is that I went back to the plant, and then I was expecting some type of bug or insect in the bottom of it, and I looked around, there's nothing there, but we saw that happen a lot of times, probably about 40 or 50 times.
Oh, that's crazy. We should set up a time-lapse camera or something just to see if...
Yeah, I did that, and you could see, and again, my mates laughed at me and said, you're out of your mind, but I said, hey, my wife's seen them more than me. So then after the time we got professionally cleansed the first time, because we struggled to fall pregnant for a long, long time. Yeah. And this is, I don't know how spiritual or mystical you are, but after we got the house, we fell pregnant naturally. And you can't make some of the stuff up that happened thereafter. But Jess, my wife, rang me one day when I was at work, absolutely hysterical, because she put Axel, our son, in a little chair bar seat in the middle of the kitchen bench. And I know her, she would have left that in the center, right? And there's no way that he could have fallen off without him scuffing his feet along the counter. And then she rang me and she said that he's fallen off the counter. She was absolutely beside herself. And I didn't believe that she put that baby close to that counter. I got no proof that something pushed him off. Some of the stuff that's happened in that place, no one's died in the place, but it's got a history of like a bit of divorce and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why I'm quite open to all this stuff. And a lot of people,
Yeah.
then, they shy away and say, no, ghosts aren't real. But when you've actually lived in a place where you can't help but notice stuff is happening, right?
Oh,
It's just like
absolutely.
it's in front of your face, and it's like you can't deny that. You can't just put it in the back burner and go, yeah, it's all good. Like you see stuff happen. So
Yeah, I mean,
apparently-
I don't. It's tough to come up with conclusions after so many years of investigating because who knows what it really is. But I've seen enough, and to know that there's something, whether it's spirits or some sort of interdimensional crossover or whatever it is, there is definitely some kind of energy beyond our plane of existence that can interact with us.
yeah,
And and I guess, as they say, we won't find out until we die, right? If there's an afterlife. But
yeah, exactly.
yeah, but it's crazy stuff. I would hate to run into one of those spiders just to. I'm a card carrying arachnid. That friend of mine that I mentioned with the eBay account, he was an arachnophobe,
Right.
and to cure it, he started collecting tarantulas.
Oh, right.
He's
There you
got,
go.
I think he's got about 30 of them, all different kinds. He's got them all set
Alive,
up.
you mean?
Yeah, live ones.
Yeah, right.
And he said most of them are quite easy to handle. There's one, he said it's like a little teddy bear. It's this sort of big brown thing, and it's very
Yeah.
docile, and it won't do anything to you. And the kids, I've taken my kids over there, and they've, it's crawled around on them. And he's got one in particular, though, that is a nasty piece of work. I think it's like an African bird eater, and very aggressive. He only handles it with like giant oven mitts kind of thing. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think I could spend a night in their house because I would just.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like as I said, we've got a lot of stuff here that can kill you. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of a blue ring octopus. You ever heard of that?
No.
So it's a very cute octopus, about yay big, right? And they frequent around rock pools. So if you take your kids to the beach looking for shells and you see all the rock pools and that, they're hard to spot, but they've got blue rings on them, right? So blue ring octopus. You get stung by one of those, especially a kid, you could easily die. 100%.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So they're like this cute little thing. Oh, look at that. And then bang, you're in the, ICU. So it's been story that people that have actually, especially people who've got heart conditions, like there's a lot of stuff here that can kill you. But we're in Sydney. So whilst there's, you get the odd spider here and there, a lot of the stuff is kind of in the center or, found heavy bushland. You don't see too many of those big funnel web spiders, but they're arseholes. They'll even survive in water. They're very tricky. So they like to frequent around pools.
Yeah.
And what they'll actually do is that when they fall in the water, right, they can have oxygen or air bubbles on their fur, right? And they can keep them alive underwater. So they usually sit on the bottom of your pool. So they're very tricky, but kind of getting a bit off topic here. So
Yeah.
getting back to the haunted stuff. So is there a place that you won't go?
No, I don't think after doing this for as long as we have, I don't think there's any place that would scare us away. Quite the opposite. We find it quite exhilarating.
Yeah, good.
And it would have to be something really, really trippy for us to be like, okay, we're not gonna, stay around this place. But it's kind of like that's what you're in it for stuff to happen. And it's the common misconception, and we kind of, we're not huge fans of the reality TV, paranormal reality TV, because they kind of given the real paranormal investigators a bit of a bad name, because you watch those shows, and we've had people call us or contact us to come to their house to investigate, and they've invited their friends over and neighbors over, and they think it's going to be like an episode of The Ghost Hunters, where you get crazy evidence every single time you go out, which doesn't actually happen. A lot of times you're sitting there, it's like watching paint dry. It's a little on the boring side. It's kind of you're in it for the long haul, just to try to find a few little answers. apart from places that always deliver, kind of like the mansion, most places you go to, you don't get a lot, if
Mm.
anything.
Yeah.
So that's one of the misconceptions about paranormal investigating.
Mm. And have you heard of any other crews? Maybe not in the Cold Spotters, right? Is that correct?
Cold spotters, yeah.
Maybe other crews. I'm sure there's obviously other crews out there. Have you ever heard of like really bad stories of some people that have got like stuffed up like mentally from it?
I think some of the cases that I've heard is a friend of mine in another group. There's this nasty old cemetery just sort of on the outskirts of town, and we've been there before.
Mm.
But every time this guy would go there with his team, the next day he would have like welts and scratches on him, and
Really?
yeah. So I'm not sure if he's just got a higher degree of susceptibility with the spiritual world, but it is something where that physical contact has been known to happen after you've left a place, where a spirit or some sort of energy might attach themselves to you, and that's just, sometimes the only way they might be able to make themselves known is to just sort of gouge you or something. And
Mm.
so he's a little freaked out about going there. I personally have never had anything negative happen to me anywhere so
Mm.
far. Um, and there's been a few places where I've because I'm not a psychic medium or anything,
No.
but a couple places I've been to where I think an energy can be so heavy that it'll encroach into your natural psychic abilities. Maybe everybody has a little bit of psychic ability, however untapped it might be. And so I've felt some pretty heavy energy in a few places, but not to the point where it frightened me. I've sat in that haunted house like by myself all night with the lights off, and
All right. And
yeah,
I'm sure it'd be so easy for, like as you said, with the noises that are the normal noises that a house would make. I'm sure it would be so easy for the old Tom, Dick, and Harry just to jump to conclusions every time. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
And we did.
Yeah.
Probably the first couple of years, every little noise or whatever, it's like, oh my god, and after a while, we were able to debunk it and kind of, so a lot of times we know exactly what bumps and noises a house makes, where it's just a natural noise a house would make,
Mm.
and then anything above that, we kind of tap as sort of a file of interest.
Mm. Yeah. Especially the voice recording stuff. That's bizarre, right?
Yeah, those are the toughest ones to debunk, right? I mean, you could really get technical, and you're catching cross cellular waves or something like
Yeah.
that. But when you're getting actual responses on a digital recorder that has no type of cellular components in it, that's why you should never use your phone to record if you're doing an EVP
Makes
session.
sense. Yep.
But it's it just leaves a giant question mark. Like, there's got to be something there. I mean, I just got this direct answer to a question.
Mm.
So,
And
and that does happen.
you can only hear it on the recording when played back. Was
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, you don't hear it when it happens. It's later on, and even then, sometimes you'll play your recorder back. You won't really hear anything, because sometimes when you're either outside or in a giant room, like the rooms in that mansion are very cavernous, and
Mm.
you hear a lot of just that kind of dead air, that a condenser microphone will pick up,
Mm.
and so you have to drop it into a sound editor, and try to do a little bit of adjusting to see, okay, I heard something there, what is that, filter out the background noise, and then kind of see what you've come up with, and every once in a while it'll be some voice there that's either answered a question or said something in relevance to what you were talking about.
Mm. And before you go to these haunted places, like, do you do research on people that have died there?
No, well, every once in a while, we'll be given that information ahead of time, but generally we don't, because we don't want to be sort of pre-influenced by what we might find.
Good point.
Uh,
Good point.
yeah,
It's like watching a movie trailer before going to the movie, right?
yeah, and I would rather just go in completely unawares of anything, except for whatever basic information we were given. This house is haunted. That room in the house has energy and whatnot. And beyond that, it's like, okay, don't tell me anything else. I just want to go in there and just find what I find. A good example of that is in one of the parts of town. There's this very old pub, and I think it's been around. The building was around since the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And we went down there, and somewhere I have the film clip of this, the video clip of this. There was we're kind of standing around, and all of a sudden there was just this loud clap, like right in front of one of our team members' faces. And of course, whoa, like it's like, what the hell was that? It's actually freaked us out. And that was very early on within the first year of our forming. So when we communicated this activity to the management of the pub, and we're down in the basement, that's where it was, and all these different hallways, and just it was like being in some sort of catacomb kind of area. But when we told them that, they confirmed to us that there is a spirit down there that will clap in your face, and he had a name and everything, and so something like that. It was good to not be pre-informed by that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, you just sparked my memory of the word catacomb. So have you been to the catacombs in France?
No, I've never been overseas.
Really?
Yeah,
So,
just down in the States and Canada. Yeah.
So like Elvis, you only perform paranormal activities in your hometown or your home country. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the catacombs I've been there twice, and it's like Paris is amazing. So I've been to obviously France twice, but it's really creepy. So like you'll go there, and like there'll be a massive line, and then you get to the entrance, and it's like this. If memory serves, it's like this very like dark green style of entrance. Looks very, doesn't look too much. Then you start walking down the spiral staircases with all the sandstone and all that, and then you'll get to basically the catacombs, where it's almost like an art form of people that died during the bubonic plague, and you got to be thinking like there's got to be some types of spirits down there.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
actually, I think there is a horror movie about the catacombs where people get trapped down there. Have you seen that one? I remember seeing something like that.
No, it's probably
Probably about 10 years. Yeah, it's probably a B grade one. It's probably about 10
That's
years
where
old.
the Phantom of the Opera lives in the catacombs, I believe.
Yeah,
in the original.
Yeah.
The Lon Chaney.
I've seen that play twice. It's actually really good. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, well, mate, we've almost hit about 50 minutes, buddy. So I reckon we wrap it up there. Anything else you want to? Or what about? Where do you see, before we go? I'll ask you one question. Where do you see horror films going in the next 5 years? Where do you see things playing out?
What I'd like to see is horror movies not follow the jump scare trope. Which, the ones that are strictly geared for, commercial return. Movies like that do really well and become, legendary, or just, those ones that are kind of never meant to have done anything. And independent movies, or even the first Paranormal Activity movie. I think.
Yeah, I was about to mention that, and that's a brilliant film, like almost the found footage type Blair Witch.
Yes.
Film. You really don't see anything until her CGI face at the end, right?
Yeah.
Something that just was so terrifying, and literally there was nothing there. It was all just invisible, demons or whatever it was. I saw a clip of it the other day. It's got Foxtel, which is here in Australia. Just the scene where the priest, I think, comes back, and he's like, "Nah," he's like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Like, I'll send someone here, but like, guys, I'm not your man. Like, just those little things, and that kind of reminded me as well of the second guy that cleansed our house. And I asked him the question because he said that when he gets to homes, he will stand out the front for 20 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes, something like that, and just be and just feel the presence and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've asked him the question. I said, "Look, have you done houses that are definitely haunted?" He goes, "Yes, I have." And he goes, "Seriously?" He goes, "I've been to homes that are basically possessed by demons." And he goes that you can't even walk into these places.
Yeah,
it is that dense with darkness and all that crap, and just hearing that. So it's just like, some of the stuff that guy would have seen, probably similar to some of the stuff that you've witnessed, but like this guy's like next level type thing. And it's just like, that just creeps you out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's where I'd like to see horror go. Take chances, and don't try so hard to just throw the jump scares in there. And it's a lot of movies that come out now. I have to admit, I can't even see it because they get so saturated in their discussions on like the Facebook discussion groups and whatnot. I just find it's like, I don't even have any desire to go see this movie. It's so I don't know. I usually come across all these weird little independent movies by accident, and I buy a lot of low to no budget movies. One that I'll mention to keep an eye out for, I think it's even someone uploaded it to YouTube. It's called Carver, and it came out in 2008. It's just a run of the mill, cliche slasher movie with this big lumbering idiot, kind of like a Jason character. But there's one scene in particular, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but there is an outhouse scene, and that's all I'll say. And that was just, to me, that made that movie just an utter, classic, even though it's just a low budget kind of piece of shit movie. And
that's similar to like Saw, right? It's like, I think there were Aussie guys that did that, I'm pretty sure. And it's like, that was a low budget movie, and that just absolutely killed it at the box office.
And that's what I mean. Take a chance. Do something just weird or crazy, and
So there you go, man. So thank you for being a guest. I don't know why I've gone purple here, but I don't know. Maybe the spirits have tuned in and they realize what's going on here. So
perhaps, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah,
it's good. We'll do it again, no doubt,
absolutely,
in the future. So thank you, Calvin, and be sure to check out the Horror Cycle on YouTube and on TikTok as well. So thank you, buddy. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So there you have it, the interview with Calvin Price from the Horror Cycle, and of course the ghost hunting group called the Cold Spotters. So awesome, gentlemen. Be sure to subscribe to his TikTok page and also his YouTube page as well, and stay tuned for DMR in the coming weeks. Hopefully we're going to have a few more big interviews. We've got one coming up this week with a very renowned Hollywood director, so be sure to tune in for that one. And as always, laters on the Menjay. What an amazing interview from Calvin Price from the Horror Cycle. So make sure you jump on his YouTube page and TikTok page, and don't forget to log on to the MJ Bale link in the description.